and Mariann on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, ladies.
Get it going.
Yes, let's do it. I got all these buttons in front of me, and I just got to keep it together.
I'm sure you're doing great.
All right. My name is John Grace, and we have a very special guest / host on the show today. Two-time world champion, hailing from Norway, and Queen of the North Fork, Mariann Saether. Mariann, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, John.
How's it going?
All good over here. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. So, you were over in Idaho just a few days ago, and now you're back. And what are you doing there?
Well, I had to head back to obviously hang out with my family, but we also run a business in northern Norway. So I've been on the river today, safety kayaking, and I'll be doing some raft guiding too.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So I have a little son. He's 2.5 years old, called Benjamin. He's named after my friend Benjamin York that passed away some years back. And my partner is Ron Fisher from Switzerland. And yeah, we're a happy little kayaking family over in Norway.
Nice. So do you have a rafting business there, or a photo biz, or what's your business?
Yeah, it's a rafting business actually in northern Norway, not far from the Arctic Circle. We raft this amazing river, which is called the Austervefsna, which is really hard to pronounce, but it's a big volume river, and it's luckily situated in one of the best areas in Norway for kayaking. So we're happy. We're stoked.
Cool. Well, as I was explaining a second ago, normally I have Louis Geltman and John Weld on the show as my co-hosts, and it's 4:30 in the morning where they're at right now. It's 7:30 here on the East Coast, and this was the time we could squeeze this in between family, work, and the whole 9 yards. So, like I said, you're going to be co-host and guest on the show. So
I'll do my best.
All right, before we dig in, share something with our audience most people probably don't know about Mariann.
I used to be a baton twirler for 12 years when I was in high school. Believe it or not. And I used to do synchronized swimming. So there's 2 facts.
So tell me about baton twirling. For 12 years you did this? Were you traveling around and competing and that kind of thing?
No, but actually in Norway we have a big tradition for marching bands.
Okay.
And they traditionally come out on the national holiday, like the Constitutional Day on 17th of May. And then we normally also have then baton twirlers that will march in front and throw the batons. And that's what I did. That was a big high school thing. Kind of like, the Norwegian version of cheerleading. So we did that. So, yeah.
And then synchronized swimming. Do you think synchronized swimming helped you with paddling?
Oh, definitely not. For sure not. But that was all before I got into kayaking, So this was just, I was very active in the swimming club when I was younger. And then it got a little bit boring to just do lanes. So our coach introduced us to synchronized swimming, and it got very challenging and quite comical. It's quite good fun.
Is there any footage around anywhere, or is there any place we can see you doing either of these 2 activities?
I got some hidden stockpiles of footage, from my baton twirling days, but thank God there's no synchronized swimming footage. I'm very happy about that.
You may have to send some of that over. I'll put it in the show notes. People would love to see you doing some baton twirling.
I still have it. Sometimes I pull it out, at parties, and you can even make fire batons, so I'll light the ends on fire. I've been known to do that when I was a bit younger. Good party trick.
Well, I have a ton of questions and things like that for you, but before we get too deep into your interview, I have a few listener mails that I'm hoping you can help answer, if that's all right.
All right, we'll give it a go.
All right, let's see. Where do we start here? All right, so this comes at us from Andy out of Duluth, Minnesota. He says, Dear Hammer Factor, love the show. I'm both a lifelong kayaker and surfer. I would never consider going kayaking without a life jacket, while conversely, I would never pedal out to the lineup wearing a life jacket. Many years ago, my brother and I had a great surfing session at Pipeline on the Lasha River for several hours on surfboards. Do you know where that's at,
Yeah,
Mariann?
I
Okay.
know. Yeah, I know where that's at.
On surfboards without wearing life jackets. There were a few other surfers at the wave throughout the day also not wearing life jackets. At the time, I did not feel like anything I was doing was radically unsafe or endangering others. In fact, dare I say, it felt good to not be encumbered by a life jacket. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I see little difference in the hazards between river surfing and park and play kayaking, so why is there a double standard between the two sports? River surfing seems to be having a renaissance, and I'm wondering what the crew's thoughts are about the differences between people's perception of safety across different water sports. Easterly yours, Andy. So, is there much river surfing that goes on in Norway?
It's getting bigger and bigger. Some of the ways that we used to surf back in the days, in our glides and riot hammers, like the long boats, they're definitely now being taken over by river surfers. And it's interesting because there's lots of kayakers doing this too. And here in Norway, people do not wear a life jacket while they do that.
Yeah,
Um,
they don't hear either, but everybody in Norway, if they're at that same feature in their kayak, they're wearing a PFD, eh?
yes, that's right.
Yeah, so I don't know, Andy. That's a really good question. I guess there's the element. I mean, but you can hit your head. This one really stumps me. What do you think about that? Do you think river surfers should be wearing a PFD, or do you think we should be kayaking on play features without a PFD?
Well, I have spent a fair bit amount of time on the Ottawa, playing at some of the features there, like the smaller features like push button. And I definitely do see at times people not wearing a PFD. And maybe my stand on this whole thing is that it depends on the spot and where you're at. Obviously, if it's Garbrader, like I would never surf Garbrader without the life jacket on, because obviously there's a rapid coming below and there's some eddy lines and stuff. But if it's a small feature and you are a river person and there's nothing coming up behind, I can't see also the harm in not wearing it. Though I think maybe it's a tricky question, because at the same time on the river we should be wearing safety equipment, just also to set a standard and for the kids growing up and all this. So I'm a little bit split as well. I don't have a clear answer.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I kind of have two thoughts. To me, wearing a PFD is oftentimes not just about me. It's if I have to do a rescue or help somebody else out. So that kind of makes me want to keep a PFD on. And also kind of speaking to what you were saying as far as depending on the location, surfers in the ocean aren't wearing a life jacket when they're at their standard break, but you'll notice that all the big wave guys are wearing a PFD. So, yeah, I don't know. Good question there. Good question, Andy. Personally, I'm a fan of wearing the life jacket. Just simply, if I need to help somebody else out, it's going to make it way easier if I got a life jacket.
Yeah, that's a very good point, John. That's a very, very good point.
All right, Andy, there you go. Okay, this comes at us from Connor, no last name. He says, "Hey guys, been arguing with some of my paddling buddies for a while on this subject and wanted to put it to rest. Is the Party Brap a Class 5 boat? If not, can other boats in this class, such as the Antic, Steez, and Ripper, be considered Class 5 boats? Cheers, Connor."
Well, I think it's very often not really the boat, it's the paddler, So there's many Class 5 kayakers that are super happy to take those kind of boats down Class 5. And that's because they have the skills to do it. Whereas, it's also fine to just not take those boats down and make life a little bit easier. And I think it's fine to paddle them down Class 5 if you, as a paddler, if you're up for it. It wouldn't be my first choice if I was beginning to push into Class 5, perhaps. Then I wouldn't really go for it, because it's definitely more challenging.
I was looking at some of the footage online of the North Fork. Was Aniel in a Steez? Was he racing a Steez out there?
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, that's, Jake's is certainly Class 5.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, no, I kind of agree with you there. I think that there's an added element of possibly risk, but there's also maybe some extra performance and fun if you got the skills for a boat like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've definitely taken, boats like that down class 5, but when it comes to like a new river or a river there may be some logs or something where I may not know what I'm getting into, I don't take them. So,
Yeah, like back in the days, we used to have those kind of boats for creeking because that's what there was.
yeah.
But obviously, there's been an evolution in boat design. So, I mean, you're not making your life easier by taking those boats down class 5, that's for sure. But it could be a lot more fun, like you say, if you're up for it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I think that pretty much answers Connor's question. Let's see. What do we got here? I've got about 20 of these, Mariann, and I know that you have to go pick up Benji here in a little bit, so we're not going to be able to get to all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, I was listening to the show and had some ideas about additional dry storage that might be something to consider. Most people wear Astral PFDs that come with a zipper clamshell pocket. I've been on the river many times and thought it would be useful to keep items that need to stay dry in that pocket. Do you think making a waterproof clamshell could be feasible? Another thing to consider is that it may add flotation to the jacket, as the pocket wouldn't be filling with water on a long swim. Love the show. Jacob Christ. I don't know. I mean, I just put stuff in a dry bag and put it in my boat if I want it dry. But
yeah, because actually that front pocket, it is really where you want to keep those things that you need quickly, which is typically rescue gear. And I would rather have my rescue gear handy right there in the front than, some dry underwear for the campfire.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, I'm gonna tell Jacob that, that's probably not a feasible thing or something that's going to happen. And then who knows how much it would cost to implement that into a life jacket. Okay, here's a good one. Beating a dead horse and helmet talk. Enjoyed the helmet discussion. A few shows back we talked about helmet technology and kind of how it's changed and how mountain bike technology and ski technology hasn't quite transferred over to kayaking yet. So that's a little background on this question, Mariann. But he says, a few years back, I took a blow to the forehead and bit down so hard that I ended up losing some teeth. Nothing left of them. Roots and all came out. Ouch.
Oh, crazy.
Didn't get hit in the mouth at all, only the head, so a full face wouldn't have helped. From then on, I've started wearing a mouthpiece for some runs and have realized how much I'm constantly clenching my mouth, especially for bigger drops or more consequential rapids. I've seen a few folks wearing them, but sort of thought there would be more people using one. Any thoughts that that's a better alternative than a full face or protecting against concussions? What do you think about mouthpieces, Mariann?
I think they're brilliant, and I just haven't gotten around to start wearing one myself, but I know that like my ex-boyfriend Tyler Curtis, he's a big fan of them, and it makes a lot of sense, because when you see like the big weightlifters, I'm pretty sure many of those they wear the mouth guards because you can actually clench your teeth together and you can pull harder. So it's definitely I think it has a lot of advantages. And yeah.
I have one. I haven't pulled it out in a long time, but I've definitely clenched down on, if I'm going to take a hit, if I'm going to run a big waterfall, I'll pull that thing out and put it in. But I kind of have trouble. I have trouble like breathing and doing all the other stuff and communicating with it. So it's kind of like a love-hate relationship,
Yeah, it's kind of like the nose plug, I see there's a lot of benefits to the nose plug, but at the same time, then I start breathing through the mouth, which I don't like doing when I'm kayaking. So yeah, it's maybe also why I'm not wearing the mouthpiece at the moment. But if I do get back into running the bigger rapids or the bigger waterfalls, that's definitely on my list to get, the gear list to get.
What kind of helmet are you wearing right now?
I'm wearing my rocker, the Sweet rocker, and my strutter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more here before we get into your interview because I have a lot of questions. Did you come up with a rant or a rave?
Yeah,
Oh,
like I
okay, don't
yeah,
tell us yet. We're not to that part of the show. I just wanted to see
okay.
if you got one. Let's see. This comes from Kevin Hill, and this is another PFD question. And I kind of like this one because I think there's some merit here. He says, "Why don't we have emergency inflation PFDs akin to avalanche packs? I recall seeing them used in whitewater, I believe in the Congo video, but they were custom made. It seems like something that could be designed for use in rescue vests for rapidly increasing one's buoyancy. Obviously, this wouldn't always resolve the issue and could potentially make some situations worse. That said, if I was being recirculated without surfing or had a foot entrapment, I'd take the chance any day and pull the cord to rapidly inflate a large sack to help me surface." What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, maybe I mainly think that it's not really needed for the majority of paddlers out there. I understand, like on the Congo mission, like that's something very specifically something that could help them if they got into trouble. And it's a little bit like, this discussion with avalanche backpacks too.
Mm-hmm.
After the avalanche backpacks came out, you see a lot more people actually ending up in avalanches because they feel safer and maybe they don't always do the best judgment call on what they should ski or not.
Ah, interesting.
And maybe this is just maybe a thought I have that maybe it's along that line as well. If we start getting too many safety gadgets like that, maybe it takes away the focus of what we can do and what we shouldn't do.
Right, right. Do you have any giant creature crafts or Uberlinks or any of that show up in Norway?
Yeah, we have occasionally some Russians and East Europeans that come over with the creature crafts, and yeah.
That's kind of along the same chord, It's like they're trying to out-tech the whitewater.
Yeah.
Is the way I look at it. Now, there's this resurgence of those things. I can't remember the exact name. I think it's a creature craft that I keep seeing all over here in the
Yep.
U.S. And it's kind of one of those things. There was even a motorized one on the Golly a couple years ago,
Whoa.
which was just a little over the top. I don't know. I think there could be some merit to having some, big safety thing, but also it'd have to have a lot of thought. I mean, is it going to, if you inflate it, is it going to push your face down in the water? If it's in front of you, are you going to be able to grab a throw bag if someone throws a rope at you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would just have to kind of see it and play with it. But it is kind of an interesting concept. I don't know. Well, we got a whole bunch more listener mails here. Thanks everybody for sending those in. We will get on those the next show when we get Geltman and Weld on here. How did my boy Lewis Geltman do out there at the North Fork race?
It's looking all solid. Yeah. I wasn't paying much attention though to the other racers because I was so focused on trying to keep it together myself, I have to say. So, yeah.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Let's get some let's focus on Mariann here for a little bit. Where at in Norway are you from, and what were you like before you got into paddling?
So I'm from the Sjoa region. There's a little town there called Otta. So that's just 4 hours north of Oslo, which is it's a whitewater place. There's a lot of rafting happening on the Sjoa. And before kayaking, so I started pretty late. I started when I was 15. I did a lot of sports, various kinds of sports, but I also got into snowboarding when I was like 12. And definitely I had some years on the snowboard that I realized that I have a good mindset. Like I like to go fast and I like to take chances, basically, also on the snowboard. Yeah.
And then how were you introduced into whitewater?
Well, I met a really cute guy, and he asked me out on a date, and the date was a roll practice in the local pool. So then I was hooked. Never looked back after that. And I started dating him.
So how long did it take for you to be a better kayaker than this guy?
It took me probably a year and a half, I would say. Yeah. But I kayaked very much, a lot, right off the bat.
Yeah. How old were you when you came to the Southeast and we had you nailed it. It's when I first met you. We had 2 week rainstorm. I mean, we were able to
Well,
paddle so many different rivers.
that was such an amazing trip. That was so cool. The Ravens Fork, that was my highlight. That was the best river.
I mean, we
Um,
paddled the Raven Fork and the West Prong and the Little Possum and the Bear and just I mean, we hit all the classics on that trip. I don't think I've
and
had
we,
a trip like that since then here in the
and
Southeast.
I even remember that we met Pat Keller on that trip, and I don't remember the name of that river. It was a very small river with a big slide, so that sounds like a lot in the in the southeast. But I remember meeting Pat Keller, and he must have been, I don't know, not very old at that point, and already then like such a nice guy.
hmm I remember you. I remember the first time I realized how tough you were was on that trip. Because do you remember when you pitoned on Little Possum, messed up your
No,
ankle? God, it swelled up like nobody's business. You don't even remember it, but I just remember being like, "Oh God, dude, that'd put me on the couch," and it didn't slow you down one bit. You were limping around, hiking your way into the Raven Fork. It was epic.
yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
I can usually take a little bit of shit. Yeah,
all right, well, let's fast forward to the North Fork race this year.
yeah.
Kind of set the scene for me. If you don't know what the North Fork Championship is, just kind of describe what you saw coming in and just kind of paint the picture.
Yeah, I was getting off the plane, like, and I got driven up the valley by Hannah. My friend Hannah picked me up. And I got to the river, and the first thing I realized when I put my hand in is that it's really warm. And I had only brought a dry suit from Norway. So that was rookie mistake number one. So the North Fork is really warm. Remember that. Yeah, and then there was lots of people around already. I was coming pretty late into it. I came on Tuesday afternoon before the race. And people were training hard, like both on the qualification section, but also already in Jake's. So I watched a few runs through Jake's and thought, oh my God, there were a few of the big names, like not making clean lines. And then, yeah, obviously, like figuring out the qualification course. It's a place where you easily can lose time because it's a fairly easy course. So it's important to get the lines dialed there. And lots of people were out there. It was a really good like atmosphere right away, and you could tell people were quite tense. A lot of people wanted to make it onto Jake's.
Right. So the competition was stiff.
Yeah, definitely, both classes.
I'm a part of this AWP association. That
Yeah.
we pretty much had the World Championship there, and we kind of narrowed it down to two locations. And I was really a fan of the North Fork as being the qualifier because it had both the giant slalom and downriver event. And
Hmm.
so I thought that made for a really legit course. But this year they had the the kind of head-to-head elimination round. Tell me about that. How did that work?
Yeah. So on the first round, we were all seated and selected. On the semifinal, so it was a head-to-head system, but you were not actually on the river together with the person you were racing against. So you were racing against the other person's time. So I like that. I like that format when we're heading into like big water like Jake's is, because it makes you able to just perform your best. You're not battling with someone else, like taking a paddle to your face or something. Like you're actually like going out there, staying fast.
Right.
So I thought that was good. The only thing I was thinking about is I think it would have been an improvement maybe for later that this second round of qualification should actually be on Jake's without gates, because then it would force more people to get onto Jake's and train maybe earlier, and yeah, I think that would be maybe even a worthier qualification round than on the class three.
So in these head-to-head time trials, how many rounds? Well, there was probably how many girls were competing?
There were 30 signed up,
30.
and then
Okay.
yeah, and then I think it was 19 or 20 to start on the first round, and then we got eliminated down to 10, and then down to 5.
Okay. So when you did the time trial, it was the group of 10
Yeah.
and then so you guys just did how many rounds did you do through that head to head?
Just one.
Just one. Okay. And so
Mm.
and then how many did the guys do?
Just one as well.
Okay. So that was okay. All right. I
They
see
just
how
had
it
a
was.
bigger cut. Yeah.
I see how it was. Okay. All right. So let's fast forward to the big day. So now it's like,
Yeah.
so was everybody, was everybody doing laps on Jake's the entire time? Were the gates set up where you could actually practice them and know where they were going to be, or did they bring those out later?
Yeah. So they on Tuesday when I arrived, there were some people going down the rapid, but there were no gates yet. So they got put up on Wednesday midday. And when they set the gates, then more people started training because it's just better to train, when you know what kind of moves you actually have to make.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a fair amount of men out there training. Not so many of the women. There was definitely a little feel like in both the men and the women's category, it was a little bit like, well, if I make the cut, I'm going to go and train it then. Yeah,
Right.
so.
Right. It's an intimidating rapid. Describe Jake's.
Yeah, it's mainly it's a lot of fun. And I mean to just go down the rapid, it's just it's an amazingly powerful rapid, and it sits on top of the next rapid as well, called the golf course, which is a pretty long section of whitewater with holes in it, a lot of holes. That's why they have the name. So it's the combination of the two together is quite intimidating. You don't want to screw up Jake's and go for a swim. That would be horrendous. So it's pushy water in there. And then when you also add gates, and especially number 1 and 2, they were set in practice very tricky. And they actually ended up moving the number 1 gate a little bit over for finals to make it a tiny little bit easier. So more people made the combination.
Did they,
So, yeah.
did they, it was a left-hand gate, correct?
Yeah, like you had to pass the first gate on the right and then the second gate on the left.
Okay. Gotcha. And so rather than let you creep too far over to the left of the first hole, they kind of made you keep it in the meat a little bit.
Oh, yeah. You definitely had to stay out in the middle and then get some good timing, especially. You needed a little bit of speed, but not that much. But the crucial part was definitely a left sweep booth over the curler.
Yeah.
To paddling forwards. Yeah.
That's a pretty classic move out there. What I've only ran that rapid probably 5 or 6 times. It was 25 to maybe 35. What was the flow you guys raced?
We had 3,000 CFS.
3,000. Okay, so that's a good level.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been there before, so I don't really know, but it was definitely, the locals were saying that when it's higher, it greens out a little bit more. The features, obviously, it's faster and pushy, but it greens out a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's lower, it doesn't get so pushy. And now it really was, it was powerful. It was lots of power in the water, and the waves were really crunchy. So it was hard to go through them sometimes.
So you're going through the rounds. Where were you sitting after each round, and who was looking good in the girls' class? How was the competition shaping up?
Yeah, so I did well. Like I won every round of the competition, both the first Kokatat qualifier and then the semifinals where we were like competing against each other's time, and then I won the finals. But other fast girls, like I'm really sorry that Darby didn't make it through to the finals because she'd been training hard and she was looking really good out there. And also Paulina Paya, she's an ex-slalom paddler from Czech. She's really fast on the class 3 qualifying there.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie Anderson had put in a lot of work as well. Jenny Crimes, it's always fast and quick.
Where's she
and
from?
Then she's from England.
Okay.
Yeah. Also an ex-slalom paddler, amazingly graceful on the water. And then, of course, you have Ajen, who's just a powerhouse. She's so strong and so focused and dedicated. So there was definitely no easy victories in any of the rounds.
Interesting. And so you swept it all the way through, and you head up to the ramp, and it's time to give it a go. Do all the racers have 2 runs? Is it best one counts? How does it work there in the finals?
Yeah, you get 2 runs. The best one of the 2 is your final time. So you had 2 attempts to get it right or to do your best.
What were you seeing in the boys' class? as you were watching? Who was standing out? Was Dane walking away with it the entire time? Was there how did that competition shape up?
Yeah, like I was watching quite a bit of the practice from the boys because I learned from watching and then doing. And I gotta say, like no one was like extremely graceful to begin with that I saw. I saw a lot of the guys, the fast guys, they had to practice. So like Dane had an insane amount of practice laps. I saw Benny Marr out there a lot doing practice laps. Anjol and Gerd, of course. Maybe the one that I saw it that for me was definitely a favorite was Joe Morley. He had a lot of really, or what I saw, he had very good lines through Jakes all the time, or one of the more consistent ones. So it's amazing that he got second. And Dane, like he's just a beast. He can run 15 laps, and I do one. He's yeah, he's a beast.
And so, how were your runs? Your 2 runs in the finals?
Yeah, so I'm usually best on my first attempt. That's what I've learned over the years, both in slalom
Hey,
racing
hey,
and
Mariann,
racing.
your mic is a little muffled there. Oh, there we go.
All right.
Now you're back.
Okay. So I know that I'm my best usually on my first round. I'm usually more on it, and I have usually more strength. So I was really gonna give it everything I had on the first one, and then have the second one as my plan B. And I got really close. I thought like I entered the first gate a little bit too far right. So even though I had a good sweep booth and I was on the good line and everything, like I didn't quite reach the second gate, but I was very close. It passed by just narrow. I was narrowingly missing it. But then I focused downstream and I was coming into the upstream gate on the left behind or over by Rock Drop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been in practice. Like I always thought that was a little bit tricky because there's some really big waves in the approach there. So I got blinded a lot. So I was pretty blinded coming in, and I ended up catching the eddy a little bit low and had to ferry into shore. And like really, I spent like 15 seconds paddling back upstream, but
Mm-hmm.
then got the gate and then really just paddle out into the current and dealt with the whole wave that's there and got the next gate. And then I turned around and went down taffy puller. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
I still
Yep.
I still don't remember all the names. And then I had something really strange happen to me that I haven't had before. But after taffy puller, my arms just froze. I got like proper climber's arms. So my forearms were just so stiff. I could barely pull on my paddle. And I guess it's just a combination of like training a lot of stress as well up front. And it was really hot. So even though I drank a lot of water, I think maybe I was missing some magnesium and some salts anyways.
Right.
So then I had to ease off on my strokes down the golf course and just focus on like getting the lines. So that's maybe what I'm a little bit bummed about, that I wasn't able to pull all the way through. And that was actually counting for both runs.
Right.
But yeah.
And how'd your competition go through there? Who all were you racing against in the finals?
Yeah, so it was me and Natalie Anderson. She was racing, and then there was Pavlina, the Czech girl, and Jenny Crimes.
Okay.
And I think out of those, yeah, and Adrienne decided on the day of the final to pull out because she wasn't feeling super comfortable on Jake's, which I have to say I have so much respect for that decision. And I'm really impressed by Adrienne. Just not by her kayaking, but that she can do these kind of decisions and not, cave in for the pressure of just racing anyways to go down. Like she wanted to be her best and she wasn't feeling her best out there, and then she decided to not go. So we were in the end only 4 women in the finals. And Natalie said as I understood, she hit the best lines she's ever had in Jake's during competition, but at least in one of her runs. But unfortunately, she missed the last gate, the finish gate, all the way at the bottom. And yeah, so that is a bummer. But at least she had good lines, like she cleaned up a few of her practice lines and she looked good. And Jenny, I don't really know. I didn't really talk to Jenny about her lines, but I mean, she got third, so she must have been pretty good. And then I know Pavlina, she was she's a powerful kayaker, she's graceful. She's an ex-slalom paddler, so even though it seemed like she was maybe quite nervous in front of like running the rapid, she must have put in a really good effort to get in second with very few practice laps. Yeah.
So she came in second.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay. I had that second and third switched up in my head. Okay. Um, well, let's talk about girls competing in an event like this. Now,
Yes.
the North Fork has an equal purse for girls and for guys. And I know that we were messaging a little bit earlier about this, that there's you have no interest in different courses for guys and girls. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I get so excited when organizers like the North Fork, when they come up with this, like same as when Sickline did it, finally open a proper women's class and present equal prize money. That's what we need. And I get equally annoyed, and there's been quite a few asking me the last week. I get equally annoyed when people say, well, maybe we should have had an easier course for the women, because not so many women can step up to that. And that makes me, like, I think that's just the wrong approach. It gets me really wound up because I think, yeah, this was the first time there's been a women class. And obviously you had people like Katrina first stepping it up, running the rapiding competition. And of course, Noria slaying it in some of the past competitions. They've been the peak. But I also believe when you open it up, more women will try, like this time. I mean, 20 women did sign up and 4 of us did race. And now the women, we know more what it takes, to go back there and do it better. As
Hmm.
of before, we would, sit on shore maybe and be, oh, I'm not sure if I can do that. But now we got the chance to actually give it a go. And it's not the same, being in a competition, trying to nail the lines, and you have hundreds of people cheering for you. And even though that's really nice, it's easy to lose your focus. So I think this is only great that we have same courses and same cash price. It will eventually make more women compete, and we will get better together.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. When it, and I'm assuming this is other women who come up and say, well, maybe we should have had a different course for the girls or whatnot. When they say that, is that just so more people would sign up? What is their reasoning for that?
Well, I mean, it is nice to be more women out there, so of course it'd be really nice to just be more and more. But I think it could be like they did on the at the North Fork here. You have a qualifying round in on easier waters, so everyone can sign up and most people can do it well. But then you could also do it at this time. You could tell the organizers that you're going to race the prelims, but you're not interested in racing finals, right? So you just take your name off the actual result list in that way, but you still get to compare your time with the rest, and you get to be a part of the competition. That I think is a good thing. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't met a lot of girls that say that we should have competitions on easier water, and there are a lot of competitions, that go on easier water around worldwide. So the opportunity is there. But I think it's really important that in these high profile events, we have a women's class and we have equal cash.
Yep. I think just the fact that it wasn't just one girl out there competing, that there were 4 of you guys on Jake's doing it, it's going to inspire many, many other women to step up their game and know that they can do it. Just.
Yes, and I also have to say, like the way the course was set, because obviously the hardest move was the right to left move to get the 2 first gates.
Mm-hmm.
But you could choose to just skip the first gate and go left of it and take the safe line, or the safer line, the easier line, and then you would still get the gate number 2. You could get number 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
But then you eliminated, a lot of maybe not risk, but you made it a lot easier for yourself. And I think most of the other women did that. I'm not sure, but I think most of them just did that. Like, and that is totally fine, like that can be your strategy. And yeah,
What's the penalty for missing a gate?
it's 50 seconds.
And is there a touch penalty?
You know what? I am not entirely sure. I think it was 5 seconds. I
Okay.
didn't really pay attention to that. too much.
One thing, in any of the races that I've ever put on, either kayaking or mountain biking or anything like that, we always do equal prizes for the girls and the guys, whatever it may be. But there's an argument out there that, especially for an event like the North Fork, where what does it cost to enter the race as a competitor?
I think it was less than $200.
So, everybody puts in their $100 or $200 or whatever it is. A lot of the
Mm.
guys would say, look, we put in 80% of the money, we should get 80% of the purse out. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is interesting. Like I like the Sweet Rumble that we have on the Shua every year. They have done this. Typically, they would take the entry fees and then split it up between men and women according to how many women there are, and according to how many men there are. And I can see from an organizer's point of view that's easy, it's fair, it's easy to defend. But at the same time, there are a few women out there. I'm not saying that there's a lot of us, but there are a few women out here that try and push hard and we work hard. Look at Noria, like how on top of the game she is. And I find it very unfair that people that are in the forefront of the sport wouldn't get rewarded like a man who's in the forefront. So that's my point. I
No,
think yeah.
no, I tend to agree with that personally, but that's definitely the argument that I've heard. And there is some validity to that, but to me, I would like to see, this. I would like to see the open divisions, always have equal purses. I just think that would be a good thing across the board. Just to get, I mean, it's just, more women in the sport is cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, without getting too in the weeds there, how'd you get ready for this race? What did you do to train up?
I would love to say that I've had a really strong training regime, but I have to admit that actually this year I just didn't have time to really put in systematic training, and I've basically just been kayaking. I haven't really been too much strength training or intervals and stuff. And I really think that's the approach to do it. And I did feel that I was a little bit weak sometimes out there. Like Jake's is so powerful. But yeah, I've just been kayaking. I've been a lot in my kayak this year, but I haven't really been training so much.
When you say a lot in your kayak, is that 3 days a week, 5 days a week, 7 days a week?
Definitely like 5 days a week. Yeah. Yeah.
And you got a little bit of mom strength in there.
Yeah. Oh, can I say something? This
Yeah.
is so cool. Out of the top 4 women that raced on Jake's, 3 of us have children under the age of 3.
Oh my God, that is
Isn't that
incredible.
amazing?
That gives me
Oh,
goosebumps just hearing about that. What's it like? I mean, Jake's is a scary rapid. People have lost their life on that rapid. What are the thoughts, not just as a mom, but as a parent out there doing that kind of thing? What goes through your head? Is there any second guessing that you should be making these decisions? How is that?
it's definitely, it wasn't on Jake's because I really fell in love with Jake's right away. I like those kind of rapids. But there's definitely some rapids now after I became a mother that I consider not worth it anymore. Typically the ones that are very dangerous, like having a really, really bad consequence of siphons or logs or um so of course I'm getting older and times have changed a little bit in that regard. But at the same time, like I am more confident now than I was 10 years ago about what I can run and what I shouldn't run. So I do feel that when I do run class 5 now, I run the class 5s that I know I'm going to do well on. So if that answers your question.
It does, but I'm just still blown away that there were 3 moms of under 3 in the finals of that race.
It's so cool. Yeah, it was amazing. And yeah, I think it's so inspiring, or I hope it is inspiring to other female kayakers, because I've gotten asked a few times the last years, um, oh, should I become pregnant? Because if I become pregnant, I'm just going to stop kayaking, and my life is going to be over, that kind of thing. And I have to say, it's not like that at all. But I think it's important, like, if you feel that kayaking is something you need in your life, you just need to take a little bit of time also when your child is small, take a little bit of time and get on the river. And hopefully you have a partner who's also a kayaker. That usually makes life a little bit easier. I'm very lucky with mine. He's understood that I need to paddle. It's something that keeps me happy and makes me a better mother. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as a father too. Let me I was following your posts on social media, and there was a lot of talk about, you had a very clear mental game, it seemed to me, just from what you were posting, that you were going to go out there and fight. Tell me
Yes.
tell me about, how does someone, if there's a girl out there listening to this, or someone who wants to compete in a green race or a North Fork race or whatever, how do you how do you hone that mental game? How does it work for you?
Yeah, like obviously you need, first of all, to have the skills to be racing on such whitewater. But then it's also, I really believe that nothing comes for free in this world, not on the river and not on shore. So my mental game was, like I know that I can run rapids like this confidently, and I know that I can compete on those kind of rapids. But it's different when you're standing there and you're looking at the gates. And my strategy was just that I have to get into that rapid right away and start training it, because I couldn't, if I started pushing it forwards, like not train right away, then I think you're ruining it for yourself a little bit. And obviously, if I had started training it and I realized that it wasn't for me, I could have pulled back. I could have pulled out of the competition and, allowed someone else that maybe would step up that spot. So for me, it was like it was really important to put down the work it takes. And for me particularly, that was getting my face wet in jigs right away, pretty much off the plane, start training it. And it's not as easy as it sounds like, because there's a lot of consequences in a rapid like that. And my other strategy was that I'm not cheating the gates. I will not go around the gates. I'm going to do exactly the same thing as the guys. So I started training the gates. And especially the first gate to the second gate, if you didn't get that right, it will right bank you straight into the right eddy that's really shallow and it's really powerful over there. So I
Hmm.
ate shit many times before I start getting it. So that's what I mean. I knew that I had to put in the work it will take to run something like that properly. And yeah, so I'm really happy. Like obviously I'm happy that I won, but I'm the most happy about the fact that this was something I'd made up my mind about before, that I was going to give it 100% and not try and cheat anything. And then I went there and I put down the work and it paid off. And I think that's how it is. You don't get anything for free.
I love that. I was having a conversation with, do you know who Annabelle Anderson is?
Oh, I don't. I'm
She
sorry.
she is a Kiwi stand-up paddleboard racer, and
Yeah.
she's probably the most dominant paddleboard racer ever. And I was talking to her one time, and she said something almost exactly like you said. She said, "You got to put checks in the bank before you can make a withdrawal."
Exactly.
And you were out putting you were making deposits, with all those practice runs and getting pushed right into the rocks and all of that stuff. So, wow, super rad. Um, Moving down my list here, do you have a mentor, Mariann?
A mentor.
Yeah, someone
I
who took you under their wing at some point and taught you the way, kind of thing.
When I started kayaking, there were a few women out there that were just kicking ass. Especially Nikki Kelly and Shannon Carroll. At the point when I was like getting into class 5, they were way above my skill level, and they had very different styles of kayaking. Um, Nikki being extremely technical, like flawless in certain executions of moves, and really a technical paddler. And then Shannon, like I don't think I met the person with bigger balls and more courage than she has. And don't get me wrong, Shannon was also an amazingly good paddler, but I think the combination of those two, they inspired me in different ways, both those ones.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're on that list inspiring people right now.
I hope so.
What talking about girls in the sport, what have you noticed in whitewater? I know that you kind of came on, you started at 15, whatever. The sport was kind of blowing up then. There was a period there where it kind of leveled off. It seems to me like we're on an upswing as far as participation, but particularly, what do you see with girls and participation in this sport, both in the past and in the future? What's your vision for the future?
Yeah, like, I mean, when I started kayaking, as I said, it felt like there were lots of girls competing in different events, both creeking and racing and freestyle. And as you said, like from late 90s to the early 2000s, like it seemed like the scene was just growing and growing, and there were companies pushing out boats, people were sponsored. It was easier back then to get sponsorship. And then it leveled out towards the end of the 2000s and into our time. And I gotta say, I also think now that it's picking up a little bit again. But I still think that, I mean, and that's why I want equal opportunity basically for the women out there as well, because we need more girls to start racing again. Well, me personally, I really love racing, so for me it's a way to like push myself a little bit. But racing can also be, in class 3. It could be a social race with your friends, on Sunday night. Just a little something to push you a little bit further.
What do you think, if we've got, I think there's more and more girls paddling all the time.
Yeah.
And there are certain things with kayaking that just inherent things, the weight of the boat, there's just certain things that for smaller people, and I'm not necessarily saying that girls are not as strong as guys, but girls are generally smaller, and so that inherently less strength and whatnot, and so some of these things make it harder. But what do you think the big impediment to girls getting in the sport? Just talking with your girlfriends who would just say, hey, I would never do that, or what is the impediment? What do girls talk about when it comes to why they don't want to paddle?
Well, I think maybe that what I've seen in the past, anyways, the past few years, that a few of the girls that were really on the rise to paddling, maybe some took it a little bit too fast. So they ended up in some scenarios that were not pleasant, and this doesn't just only happen to girls, also to the men. But I think one of the most important things to remember when it comes to kayaking, again, nothing comes for free. So you have to take your time, and baby steps are better than big leaps, So put the groundwork down. And I also think, like, women, we tend to maybe be harder on ourselves than many men. So if we make a mistake, or if we have a bad line or a bad rapid, it might just put us on shore for longer, because we think right away, oh, I'm a bad kayaker, instead of realizing that no, that was just a fuck up, that was just a fail. I just did a wrong, I did a mistake, and that's it, and then move past it. So that's something I think we women have to remember. Like, we need to ease up a little bit on ourselves. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's definitely okay to swim. We're all in between swims, and swimming only means that you're trying hard. So I really like to tell women, I say, don't be scared of flipping over. Like, you should go, and you should push yourself to levels of course on safe rapids and rivers. But I don't think the objective is necessarily, when you're learning, to always stay upright. You should also be able to put your head on the water and roll up in any kind of position, And that's why freestyle has helped me so much in creeking, because I'm a quick roller usually. Wasn't that quick on my second run in Jake's, but
Wait,
yeah.
You'll get a pass there. What boat were you paddling?
I was paddling the Piranha 9R in this race.
Was it the original 9R, the 9R2, or?
Yeah, it was the original. I've been paddling a lot of Lettmann boats the past years, and I really like them, but I wasn't able to get one in the States. And I've paddled a 9R once before, and I also really liked that. And thankfully, Dave Fusilli hooked me up through his friend Mike McKee, and Mike McKee's fiance. She was really helpful, and I got to use her boat for the race, and I'm entirely grateful for that. It was a really good boat. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that boat too. I'm just a little big for it, but I like it. I like it too.
Yeah, the only thing I felt a little bit tippy at times because I guess it's a little bit narrower, more narrow than I'm used to, and obviously has more edges. But I mean, it drives so well. I can really control it well, So, and it's fast. I love that it's fast. So yeah.
Before we move on, anything else from the North Fork? Any shout outs you want to give to anybody or anything that maybe I've missed?
I gotta say, well, there's many thank yous, but like for one, the organizers, they put on an amazing show. They pulled it together. It's impressive, like how big that event was, and I expected it for sure to be a lot less or a lot smaller, anyways. So they've done an amazing job growing this event, and that was an amazing showcase of what they've put in. Also, I would really like to thank the safety team. I mean, they were out there, watching us race, making sure we were taken care of, and that's obviously pretty much the most important job out there. So thank you guys and girls for being out there and yeah, watching over us. We definitely needed it at times.
In your career, is this win one of the pinnacles? What's your most proud? What's your highest moment of your time in kayaking?
Do you mean competitively or just in general?
I mean in general. What just sticks out as this is it? This is the pinnacle of what I've done or the way I've felt in a boat.
I have to say, like, I've had so many amazing moments in my kayak, and I've gotten this question a lot. And first of all, I never come up with the same answer. And secondly, I never seem to be able to take one moment out because, when I was younger, like I remember when I began kayaking and I was a terrible beginner. And it took me 3 months every weekend to try to get the Eskimo roll in the pool, and I never got it. And the boys got ready to go on the river for the first time, and I wasn't really allowed to come because I was the only one that couldn't roll.
Oh.
Yeah. But I was a bit stubborn, so I forced myself onto the trip, and I swam 3 times on that trip. It was ice water on the Otta River in March, I believe. There was still ice along the banks. And after that, I went back to the pool, and I never missed a roll after that. And so something just snapped in place on that trip when I was swimming. And I remember then my first combat roll. Oh my God, what a glorious feeling when I just realized that I might survive this, I might get it. So that's one of them. And then I've been on so many amazing river trips. I got to say, we did a trip to Russia, a few of us, some years back, and at one point we were standing at the put-in of the Mazoy Gorge on the Choya River,
Yep.
and it was flowing pretty high. And I didn't know it was downstream. And then making it through the Choya Gorge, the Mazoy Gorge, standing at takeout with Team Beer, actually, from Idaho there.
Yep.
We were on the same trip. I mean, the joy of like just being on shore and having paddled good lines and having had super pushy water levels, definitely like proper Russian class 5. That is a highlight. That trip is a highlight in my head. And then also that I ended up winning both sick line. That was I had a really nice run through sick line in 2015, and I was so happy with the way I paddled. But also now at Jake's, it's also a highlight because even though I wasn't as clean as I wanted in the run, I really felt that I deserved it because I did put in time and I did do my homework, so it was really great to stand there and get the first place.
Well, I love it that the current world champion, one of her pinnacles of her career is a combat roll because every kayaker who's ever paddled a boat can relate to that one, let me assure you.
For sure. It's the hardest part.
Let's flip the coin. What's the lowest moment?
The lowest moment on the river. Yeah, there's definitely been a few of those as well. I've had a couple of bad swims, definitely. I've been fortunate. I haven't been in any like bad kayaking accidents. I'm very happy about that. But I've been very close to drowning a couple of times, and it puts it all into perspective. And mainly what I take out of that is how important it is to have a good safety plan and a good safety setup and think ahead and plan for what could go wrong. So yeah, it's
Where
not that I need to take out one of those, but yeah.
where was that? When did that happen? The one that sticks out.
Well, yeah, I had a bad swim on the Pascua in southern Chile in really big water many years ago. I think it was in 2005, on the second descent of the Pascua. And then I'm probably the only person in the whole world that's managed to get stuck under the same siphon twice. But I have on the Hospital Rock section on the Kauai. This is
Okay.
also many years ago. Like this was in the maybe 2003, and then again in 2004, perhaps.
Which rapid is that? I've ran that a few times.
Yeah, now because it's been a long time, I don't remember all the names, but it's before it goes into the nice little granite gorge. It
Yeah.
makes a big left-hand turn. It goes into this really nice granite gorge with a main move in the middle of the canyon, like a booth that you got to make. So just above that corner, just above that left bank, left turn, there is a siphon on the left side, and it's even in the chicken line. So you probably never even been over there. But one time there was a log on the water, and I went there and I didn't see the log, and I just slid on the log straight into the siphon.
Oh,
Uh,
savage.
yeah, and the second time I spun out, hit the rock, and suddenly I was there again. And both times I was stuck backwards with water up to my face, and I was just not moving. I was very stable, but I couldn't do anything. So I just sat there and I waited for my friends to rescue me. It was good. It wasn't the same people 2 years in a row, but yeah, it taught me the lesson that sometimes sneaking is not the answer. Sometimes it's better to just run the meet, and then definitely like pay attention to the smaller rapids. You think you're in a safe place, in a safe environment, and bam, that's when it happens.
It is
So never,
it is the little ones that'll bite you.
yeah, for sure.
Well, I know that you have got to pick up little Benji here soon, so I've got a list of about 15 more questions I could go through with you, but let's get into everyone's favorite part of the show, rants and raves. This is where your hosts go on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave about something that they're stoked about or something that they're kind of peeving about. So, do you want to lead us off here? Do you have a rant or a rave you can add?
I have a rave,
Okay.
and it's very personal, but I'm just so stoked right now because Benjamin, my son, he's 2.5, and he just got his first kayak, and it is just amazing. And it's a Soul kayak from Corin Addison. It's
Right.
a mini me,
Yeah.
and it's perfect for his size. And he is so excited about it. I am not allowed to touch it. If I try to move that kayak, he will like run after me and tell me nine 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 nine. And yeah, we put it on the water, and he's like you can tell he's so proud that he gets to do something that daddy is doing or that mama is doing. So that is just for me just an amazing experience. So thank you so much, all you companies out there that make boats for kids. It's just so far the most amazing thing with being a mother.
So the fun level's getting ready to go through the roof.
Yeah.
Well, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure he's going to be paddling way harder than me in, no time. Soon I'm going to be the grandma on shore.
You're gonna be careful out there. Oh, mom, come on, leave me alone.
Yeah, he's going to be the one that's running Jake's for sure. I'll be the safety team.
Well, I have a rave. I recently picked up a wild water boat. A Millennium. I had paddled a wild water boat one time. It was actually on the lower Yacht. I did an attainment. First time I ever paddled one. John Weld was like, "Come up here to Pennsylvania, and we'll do an attainment." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I got a boat for you. It's a good attainment boat." So I had never been in a wild water boat. We attained the entire lower Yacht. It about
Whoa.
killed me. I swam. I couldn't roll the boat. I promised I'd never get in one of those. I didn't, I was like, I don't understand what your joy is with that, what's going on. But, I have 3 kids, and I'm sure as you know, sometimes you just don't have as much time as you want. And a river trip can take a lot of time.
Yeah, especially when your fellow kayakers are not mothers or fathers
Exactly.
and they faff around.
Exactly. We call it the jangle factor around here, and it can be pretty heavy. But
Yeah.
anyway, I've got this sweet little class 1-2 section of river that's 3 minutes from my house, but taking a Stinger out there or any other boat is just it's just boring, you know. So
Yeah.
I got this boat. I've taken it out a few times, and I can't wait to take it on a little harder whitewater. I'm going to step it up slow, but just mocking around in this super fast, narrow boat up and down all these rapids and rivers has just got me so fired up. So I'm just going to rave about not only wildwater boats, but just whenever you get bored of one boat, you can switch to a play boat
Yeah.
or a creek boat or a wildwater boat or a squirt boat, or you can jump in a raft. And I'm just so fired up that there's something new that's got me stoked to go paddle some class 2.
Yeah, like that's the thing with kayaking. Like we have so much to like there's so much variation if you want to. It's exactly what's kept me kayaking a lot as well, because if I got tired of running creeks, then I would switch to freestyle. And then if I got tired of freestyle too, then I picked up slalom in later years. And it's so good to go in between these disciplines and just have fun because they challenge you in different ways. Yeah, I agree on that.
Well, Mariann, I thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Truly a pleasure. Are there before we wrap up here, are there any sponsors or anyone that you would love to give a shout out to, or anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I definitely would like to give a big shout out to both Lettman, that's the kayak company that I usually paddle for, but also Piranha that graciously allowed me to kayak one of their 9Rs. And obviously Sweet Protection, they've been my long-term sponsor for 20 years, and that is so
Wow.
amazing. Yeah. And recently I also picked up a sponsorship with One Call, which is a phone company in Norway, and they've definitely sponsored partially my travel over to Jake's. So yeah, thank you.
Very cool. Where can our listeners follow you? Or is it best to follow you on the Instagram or the Facebook, or where do you where can people follow you?
I'm definitely mainly on Instagram under Mariann Saether, so pretty boring nickname, or on Facebook under Mariann Kayak. Yeah, both places works.
Well, Mariann, I can't wait to until our paths cross again, and I just can't wait to take our kids out on the river at some point.
I know you have to make it to Norway soon, or whenever you can. We're here. We're ready for you.
All right. Well, thanks for the time, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.